Hello, children. Till last class, we had finished respiration as a life process, and for this chapter, life processes, as I had stated earlier, we are supposed to do 4 life processes, out of which we have finished 2: nutrition as a life process and respiration as a life process. So, today we will be beginning the third one, transportation as a life process. Children, I had taught you right in the first lecture that when we talk of unicellular organisms, right, since they are single celled organisms, the cell performs all the vital functions, diffusion, osmosis is enough for transporting things in and out of the cell. But when we talk of multicellular organisms and complex organisms like vertebrates, where there is a multitude of cells, there is complexity in organ and organ systems, then in such a kind of system where there are so many billions and trillions of cells, and when the body is performing so many activities, there is a need of transporting food, water, gases, metabolites, hormones, antibodies. Not only this, whatever waste is generated also needs to be transported to the target organs from where they can be eliminated. Hence, when we talk of multicellular organisms, you need a very efficient transportation system within the body. For this, in our body, that is the human body, right, or you can talk about vertebrates as such, they have an organ system which is called the circulatory system. Now this life process, that is transportation, as far as your syllabus is concerned, you have to study for human beings and for plants. First, I will take transportation in vertebrates and transportation in human beings, and then we will study transportation in plants. So, today we will begin with transportation in animals. As I said, children, the organ system responsible for transport of substances inside the body is called circulatory system. It consists of 2 types of vascular systems, the blood vascular system and the lymphatic system or the lymph vascular system. First, we will begin the blood vascular system. Now, children, all of you have learnt it in class 9 chapter tissues that blood is a red colored fluid connective tissue. Right? Now, before we learn the blood and the blood vessels and its components, let us see what is this circulatory system or transportation system in the body mainly comprising of. Components of the transportation system in human beings is mainly blood, blood vessels and heart. In today's class, we will be covering the first 2 components, blood and blood vessels. And in my next class, I will teach you the internal structure and working of the heart in detail. So let us begin with the first one, that is blood. Children, when you observe blood, it appears red in color and it is no ordinary liquid, it is a fluid connective tissue because the matrix, that is the fluid, contains blood cells, and no wonder it is a connective tissue because this is a transporting medium which moves all around the body. It is fluid in nature and hence acts as a vehicle transporting various substances within the body. So let us see the composition of blood. What does blood comprise of? The fluid portion of blood is called plasma. Okay, or you can say the liquid matrix of blood is plasma. It is straw or pale yellow in color. If you exclude the corpuscles or the cells, the plasma appears straw or yellow colored. What does it contain? 90% of water along with plasma proteins, nutrients, ions, metabolites, hormones, antibodies. Children, whatever needs to be transported everything is added into the blood, because organs are stationary, cells are stagnant, they cannot move from one place to another. The only moving thing is blood. So whatever you want to transport to the cells, obviously you have to add into blood, and since plasma is the fluid matrix, it will contain most of the things that need transportation. Okay, so you must remember that the fluid matrix of blood is plasma, in which are embedded blood cells or corpuscles. Let us see the types of blood cells which are present in plasma. Blood cells are of three types: RBCs or erythrocytes. They are biconcave, non-nucleated and rich in hemoglobin. Main function is transport of oxygen. This is just a brief overview. I will be telling you much in detail immediately after this. Then leukocytes or WBCs, they are non-nucleated, amoeboid in shape, and they are generally involved in conferring immunity and maintaining the defense mechanism of the body. The third kind of blood cell is platelets or thrombocytes. They help in clotting of blood. Now children, I will teach you slightly in detail, because I think you should know these things when you are learning about blood cells. Although it is not given in your NCERT, it will only help you to gain knowledge and appear at a competitive level. So let us have a look at the structure of the RBCs, the first kind of blood cell. Children, RBCs are non-nucleated. They do not possess a nucleus. And RBC, if you observe carefully, it appears biconcave or disc shaped. And RBCs are the tiniest cells in the human body. An adult human being has approximately 20 to 30 trillion RBCs present in blood. It is said that in adult men, 5 to 6 million RBCs are present per drop of blood or cubic mm of blood. You can say 60 to 70% volume of the blood comprises of the cells which are RBCs. Because so many RBCs are present along with other blood cells, it is because of the RBCs that the blood appears red in color. Okay, because the number of RBCs is more. Women, they have 4 to 5 million RBCs per cubic mm of blood. Children, they are non-nucleated and they are biconcave in shape. This kind of a unique structure of RBCs actually serves the function. Why? What is this function? Since they are non-nucleated, they are biconcave in shape, it gives ample surface area for attachment of oxygen molecule. Now, RBCs are red because of the presence of the red respiratory pigment which is called hemoglobin. The hemoglobin that is present in the RBCs is rich in iron, and it is because of this iron mineral present in the pigment that imparts red color to the RBCs. And hemoglobin has a strong affinity for oxygen, so immediately it binds with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin, and it is through the RBCs that oxygen is transported from the lungs to different cells of the body. So the main function of RBCs, because of the presence of hemoglobin, becomes transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide, that is transport of respiratory gases. These RBCs are produced in the bone marrow, that is the site of origin of these blood cells is the bone marrow. They are rich in hemoglobin, and approximately life of RBCs is 120 days. Okay, now coming to the second type of WBC, that is leukocytes. Leuko means colorless. These blood cells are colorless, so they are also called leukocytes. They are produced, site of origin is they are produced in the stem cells of the bone marrow. An adult human being has 4,000 to 11,000 WBCs per drop of blood, cubic mm of blood, which is comparatively very less than that of RBC. See, here it is 4 to 5 million, whereas here it is 4 to 11,000 WBCs per cubic mm of blood. They are nucleated, amoeboid in shape. Now, WBCs that are present in the blood can be further classified into two types, granulocytes and agranulocytes. Certain WBCs possess granules in the cytoplasm which are proteinic in nature, and they can take up several stains. Depending upon the type of stain they can take up, they can be further classified into eosinophils or acidophils, or they can be classified into basophils and neutrophils. Can you see the granules present in the cytoplasm? If they are granular, then that kind of a WBC is granulocyte. You can see the nucleus also is present in the WBCs, and the nucleus has several lobes that are present. Eosinophil is bilobed, basophil has several lobes, neutrophil has 3 lobes apart from the granules. Right? So granulocytes, which are a kind of WBCs, can be further classified into eosinophil, basophil and neutrophil. The second kind of WBC is agranulocyte. That is, the cytoplasm does not possess any granules. These are further classified into lymphocytes and monocytes. Lymphocytes and monocytes are basically the kind of WBCs which help in the defense mechanism. Monocytes by phagocytosis, that is engulfing the foreign particle or the germ and killing it. And lymphocytes are the kind of WBCs which have the ability to produce antibodies against any foreign particle and are hence conferring immunity in the body. So these are the kind of WBCs which you are supposed to learn, granulocytes and agranulocytes. Children, you will not look for all this information in NCERT. You will not find it. You are requested to stick to this video if you need any extra information. Right? Now coming to the third kind of WBC, third kind of blood cell, that is the platelets. If you see the platelets or the thrombocytes, they are non-nucleated. And if you study the structure, unlike the RBCs that were biconcave, they appear biconvex in the electron microscope. They are roughly biconvex. What are they? They are fragments of cytoplasm derived from the megakaryocytes in the bone marrow, and an adult human being has approximately 1 lakh to 4 lakh platelets in the per cubic mm of blood. The main function of platelets is blood clotting or coagulation. That is, whenever there is a site of injury, when there is a rupture in any blood vessel, the platelets are signaled towards that site of injury and they form a clot or a plug, does not allow blood to flow out or ooze out of the body. So the main function of platelets becomes blood clotting. So this is all about the composition of blood, children, and we have learned that erythrocytes, leukocytes and thrombocytes, basically they are the 3 kinds of blood cells present in the fluid matrix called plasma. Now coming to the second component, see, I have just shown you the tabular representation which I have already taught you right now with the structure, that leukocytes or the WBCs can be further classified into granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granulocytes can be further classified into eosinophils, basophils and neutrophils, and agranulocytes into lymphocytes and monocytes. Now coming to the second component of the circulatory system, that is, the blood does not flow in the blood cavity in vertebrates. It flows in tubular structures, pipe-like structures, muscular tubes, which are called blood vessels. Now, blood vessels, children, before we learn them in detail, okay, let us see the functions of blood. Blood is a red colored fluid connective tissue which flows in blood vessels. Blood transports nutrients from small intestine to all the cells. Not only this, it transports respiratory gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide from the lungs to the cells and to and fro. It not only transports metabolites, ions, antibodies, but even hormones and to target destinations within the body. WBCs help in fighting infection, conferring immunity. Platelets help in clotting, and because blood is a fluid that flows uniformly in the body, it distributes the heat equally, hence maintaining a uniform body temperature. So these are the important functions of blood. Now coming to blood vessels. Children, blood vessels can be broadly categorized into three types: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Now, before we read out the points and understand, let us have a look at the structure of the arteries, veins, and capillaries so that you have a better understanding of the points that we will be learning. Children, if you observe the artery, it is a pipe-like structure, and you can see this is the wall of the artery. Okay, you can see the wall of the artery is extremely thick, and the lumen or the hollow space in which blood is going to flow within, this is very less. It is comparatively less. Reason behind the wall is thick, so the lumen becomes less. On the contrary, if you observe a vein, okay, the size of the arteries and the veins is almost the same. Okay, not much of a difference, but there is a difference in the wall. You can see that the wall of the vein is comparatively thinner than that of the artery, because of which the lumen of the vein is bigger than the lumen of the artery. Okay, and the second important, and I should say, a very important difference between the artery and the vein is that artery is the kind of blood vessel which carries blood from the heart to different body parts. I am repeating, it will carry blood from the heart to different body parts, whereas the vein will bring blood from different body parts back to the heart. Another important difference is that artery generally carries oxygenated blood rich in oxygen, except the pulmonary artery, whereas the veins generally carry deoxygenated blood that is rich in CO2, and exception is pulmonary vein. Okay, even if you observe, why is the wall thick? Because this is the blood vessel which will carry blood from the heart to the body. So when the heart is pumping blood, it flows in the artery with great pressure, because the arteries carry blood from the heart. Okay, so when it is moving from the heart, the blood flows with immense pressure. So to prevent rupturing of the artery and to give strength to these blood vessels, their walls are thicker, because blood flows with great pressure in the artery. These have valves absent. There are no valves inside the arteries. Okay, because it flows with great pressure, it moves in a unidirectional fashion. But veins, the pressure of blood is comparatively very less, because it is coming from the body to the heart. So the walls are thin and they have valves present, because when deoxygenated blood is traveling through them, okay, it should not revert back or come back. So they have valves inside. So once it moves, the valves close, the blood cannot flow back again. So valves are present in veins, they are absent in arteries. Okay, so these are the striking differences between arteries and veins, which is a very important question which is generally asked in your board exams, to differentiate between arteries and veins. Okay, then coming to the third type of blood vessels, that is the capillaries. Children, capillaries are extremely thin. They are just a membrane thick, and they are very deep seated. Here veins are superficial, arteries are deep seated. You have to understand one thing, that when arteries and veins, they are supplying blood, either oxygenated or collecting deoxygenated, when they go within the organ, they are further branched into arterioles. Arteries branch into arterioles, and veins, they branch into venules, and then arterioles further form capillaries, and then they go within the organs to supply oxygen and then collect CO2 and attach to the veins. So children, you can see that the capillaries carry both kind of blood, oxygenated as well as deoxygenated, because they arise from the branchings of the arterioles and veins. And most of the diffusion or exchange of substances through blood into the tissues takes place through these blood vessels, that is the capillaries. So these are the three kinds of blood vessels. Arteries, thick walled, they carry blood away from the heart. They generally carry oxygenated blood except pulmonary artery, and blood flows with great pressure. Veins, comparatively thin walled, carry deoxygenated blood from body to the heart, and blood flows with less pressure. And capillaries are extremely thin and deep seated. They form branchings and sub-branchings from arterioles and venules, and they contain both oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. So for today children, we have learnt blood, composition of blood, functions of blood, types of blood cells, their structure, function, types of blood vessels, and the striking differences between arteries and veins. Now the third important part of the circulatory system, heart, we will be learning in the next class. So this is all for today children. Thank you and have a very nice day.